Огонь по левому флангу! Противник на северо-востоке! Противник! Северо-запад! Противник на юге! Они атакуют с юго-востока! Заметьте, противник на юго-западе!
The AK-74, the Soviet Union's Cold War upgrade. The introduction of the original AK-47 back in 1947 heralded a new age, as a rifle revolutionized modern warfare through its relatively compact length, large magazine size, and extreme reliability. However, by the late 60s it became clear that while the AK-47's 7.62 by 39mm cartridge was fine in the close-quarter jungles of Vietnam, it was inadequate on the open plains of Europe, where it was outclassed by the new 5.56 NATO cartridge. The solution? Neck down the 39mm casing of the 7.62, stick a smaller 5.45 bullet on it, and build a new AK. Entering service in 1974, the AK-74 retained 50% of the parts of the AKM, but featured a chrome-lined barrel, spring washers on the handguard, and a muzzle brake to give it basically no recoil. First seeing action in the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, it became the standard issue rifle of the Red Army and continues to see service in numerous post-Soviet nations today. Hi, I'm Andrew, and in this week's very special video, we're reviewing the eagerly anticipated VFC AK74M GBB, VFC's debut entry into the comparatively sparse world of airsoft AK GBBs. And it is sparse when you think about it, with AK GBBs only having been made by Tokyo Marui, GHK, and WE, and soon maybe Well as well, making the entry of VFC a very welcome addition to really shake up the industry. Also, while the official name of this is the AV74M, I'm just going to call it by the real name because I'm pretty sure Kalashnikov Concern has more important things to worry about right now. But let's get to the gun itself. On first impressions, the first thing you notice is that this is an AK74M. This was a modernization of the AK74 introduced in 1991 that, among other things, include polymer handguards, a polymer folding stock, as well as Soviet side rail mounts for optics. This was the standard issue rifle for the Russian armed forces until the introduction of the AK-12 in 2018. Though, as you might have seen on the news, the AK-74M is still widely used. Externally, this replica features a full steel construction, with parts like the receiver assembly made using stamped steel with a simulated surface treatment, which gives this a really nice and smooth, genuine finish. Now, basic function markings of this AK are all correct, though this does lack markings related to any sort of specific era, making this AK-74M kind of vague. However, most importantly though, the external assembly has the same dimensions and size as real steel AK-74Ms, which means that genuine AK furniture and accessories will fit on this replica with no need for modification. So let's start off at the front. At the end of the barrel, we have the AK-74's signature horizontal muzzle brake. This is attached to the barrel by a genuine 24mm thread, just like the real thing. Now, while you will naturally need to purchase an adapter to use with your typical 14mm accessories, those of you who already have genuine AK-74 or AK-100 accessories can pop them on just fine. Now, just underneath the sights, we also have a fully functional AK-74 cleaning rod. Not really useful for an airsoft gun, but VFC's commitment to authenticity is no joke. Now, further back along the steel outer barrel, and you have the classic AK open top sights with the front sight post adjustable for elevation and windage, but only if you can manage to get yourself a genuine AK sight adjustment tool. Or you could just use a pair of pliers and a hammer, as with most Soviet things. Now, the rear notch sight is calibrated in 100mm increments that go all the way to 1000 meters, though I really doubt you'll need to use as such for airsoft. Now let's head to the back for the solid folding stock. We have a rear sling mount on the right side that corresponds to the front sling mount on the handguard. At the butt, we have a small hole here that would traditionally be used to store cleaning tools. Now, in order to fold the stock, push this button on the side to unlock the hinge and fold the stock until it locks with this latch on the body. And then to unlock it, push this big fat button on the butt over here to extend it once more. One thing to note is that this big indent on the left side of the stock exists to accommodate the side rail mount on the receiver, allowing the folded stock to go and sit completely flush against the rifle for efficient storage. This means that you can store your AK-74 in something as small as a rucksack, which is far more compact than a comparable AR that has a buffer tube. And now onto the receiver. On the top is the typical smooth AK dust cover used to access the internals, like the ball carrier group. Now, I suppose if you want the Cold War era ribbed covers, you can also get a real one if you have access, but there will be aftermarket ones coming on, probably later on. Speaking of the bolt, pull it open right over here to reveal the rotary hop-up within the chamber. Now, it's right over here, and it was a bit stiff at first out of the box, but eventually becomes easier to adjust after a bit of use. Now on the left side of the receiver, we have a Warsaw Pact style dovetail side mount for mounting optics. For many of us dirty capitalist Westerners, a side mount isn't exactly where one would expect to mount optics. But this is due to the fact that the optics mounted on a removable dust cover cannot actually maintain zero during firing due to the cover not being directly attached to the rifle. Another advantage of this type of mount is that as all side mounts on AKs are mounted in the same location, you could theoretically remove an optic from one AK, mount it on another, and it will retain the same zero as the previous rifle. Now on the right hand side of the receiver are the non-ambidextrous fire controls, featuring the typical AK style change lever reachable with your thumb. Now remember, the top is safe, middle is auto, and only the bottom is semi. You'd be surprised how many people forget that with often hilarious, albeit terrifying results. Now over to the trigger, and to be completely honest, it's kind of meh. The trigger itself is very, very light, and it does have a very strong reset. But the hammer release itself, frankly, pales in comparison to VFC's AR triggers. Now, this is likely a design compromise in order to help the bolt cycle much more efficiently to save gas, but we'll have more on that later. Now for the internals. Now push this button on the dust cover to dislodge it and to reveal these beastly components. You got the recoil spring here, but the real star is the all-steel CNC bolt assembly. You see, replicating the AK's long-stroke gas piston has always been difficult for gas airsoft replicas, as this comparatively huge bolt has always required a greater amount of gas to cycle. GHK dealt with this by halving the bolt travel distance, while WE allowed the bolt to travel fully, but the result was an extremely low rate of fire. VFC have instead enlarged the diameter of the cylinder inside to give this steel bolt the gas volume to move snappily. And if you look at the back of the guide rod over here, there's a small buffer with a spring to sort of bounce the bolt back into place. Now, this VFC AK74 does include an additional buffer that you can be fitted to short stroke the bolt. However, I found the performance difference to be just far smaller than other brands, and personally, not really needed. Now furthermore, the internal full steel fire control group has been faithfully recreated here, even down to the steel cables, and it frankly looks fantastic. So good job on that, VFC. In addition, the VFC AK74M comes with a 42-round black polymer magazine, which also features a dry firing capacity. It's also quite a bit lighter than comparable GBB AK magazines, which is always welcome. And now for price. At $549 US, the VFC AK74 is more expensive than VFC AR pattern GBBs, but cheaper than their full-size battle rifles like the FN FAL. What's interesting though is that this VFC AK74 is a bit cheaper than the older GHK AK74. So it's basically sitting around a rather reasonable price point, all things considered. So, the VFC AK74 looks to be one of, if not the most realistic AK replicas we have ever featured on this channel. But how does it shoot? Let's head to the range and find out. And now for the Chrono. As usual, we'll be firing 0.2 gram BBs using green gas. And now for the range test. Here we are, back in landing zone yet again, to go and test out this fantastic looking VFC AK74. So, without further ado, let's get to it in this 30-meter range. Wow, that's very impressive. You know one thing I feel, because I've fired quite a lot of like AK GBBs, this feels like it has the snappiness of a GHK, but also the recoil impulse of the WE AK74. And that is actually fantastic, because if you fire these AKs, they're sort of the opposite of each other. The GHK has sort of like half the bolt travel, while the WE has the full bolt travel, but the WE is a lot slower. This gets the best of both, with a few caveats. But overall, feeling-wise, it's easily one of, if not the best so far. It's great. You really get that kick out of it that you often don't get with sort of more long stroke, large bolted sort of GBBs, but it remains very, very skirmishable. It's very impressive, and I really do like it. Ergonomics, well, obviously, AKs are love it or hate it sort of thing. They're often seen as the diametric opposite of the AR platform. I'm sort of less familiar with the AK platform. The sights, they're open sights. They're inherently just a little bit less precise than usual sights. I genuinely think that if we had peep sights or an optics, I would have actually shot a lot better, because these open sights are very, very sort of like prone to sort of movements and being thrown off. But that is a lot to do with my lack of familiarity. If you grew up on this sort of system, it's going to function great for you, especially because this perfectly replicates the AK in general. Other things like, ultimately, it is really good. Very, very solid. Accuracy, from what I can tell and what I can hear, very, very solid. We had no flyers that went off the target. They were all bang on target. Very consistent feeling, so I'm very impressed with that. Overall, it is an incredible platform. It perfectly replicates the AK74 in many, many ways. The weightiness of the steel exteriors, that feels fantastic. A little bit harder on the sort of the left arm, because it's quite a longer platform here, but ultimately you're familiar with it and you practice with it, it will be no problem at all. Very, very impressed. It really is the ultimate AK. That's all I can say when it comes to GBBs. Absolutely fantastic. Aside from that, let's go and see how well I actually did. Right, let's take a look at this. Hey, that's actually quite impressive. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and I think that's one of the same spots, so 10. Right, so I'll count this one as a flyer. I was just a bit thrown off on that one, so. And I'll include these two, even though they could be flyers, just for objectivity. So overall, as you can see over here, the accuracy is pretty impressive. Aside from that one flyer up at the top, I think that was me just trying to sort of get used to the open sights, which I honestly am not that familiar with. But overall, the performance and accuracy has been exceptional. And I really expect no less from a brand new VFC gun, to be honest, because they do churn out some real quality examples. You know, there was a bit of trepidation because an AK is a vastly different platform, and VFC hasn't done anything quite like it, but I think they've really blown it out of the park with this one. In fact, I'd actually rank this as probably one of, if not the best GBB AK out there. It's basically got everything you want in an AK, you know? It's one-to-one scale, so you can fit all real AK accessories. You know, it's got an almost full travel bolt. Not completely, just a little bit, but the furthest out of all the AKs out there. And the impulse is also very good. You know, they've really worked some good things out of the internals in order to make the AK feel the harsh impulse of the AK without sacrificing too much performance. So VFC have really knocked it out of the park. Overall, I mean that's the thing though, I kind of struggle to find anything bad about it. Eagle-eyed viewers might note that it may not have all the Kalashnikov concerns or Izhmash markings from the 90s and so like that. But if that's really all you have to go on, there isn't really a lot to go about it, is there? So yeah, it really is the best AK so far, in my personal opinion. I mean, maybe the sights, you know, I'm not very familiar with the sights, I'm not very good at it, but it's already got an optics rail on it, so you can just stick an optics and there you go. Like, the shooting performance is fantastic. And even when you put it on full auto, right? Look at this. It worked fine. It expended the rest of the magazine and you felt no slowdown. Like, the whole thing was really well done. And this is without the short bolt buffer, the short travel buffer that also comes with it. So this is the full travel length and it's still performing like this. That's very, very good. You know, really, really do like that. And on that note, let's head back to the studio. We're back. So to put it bluntly, the VFC AK74 is a fantastic piece of kit and well worth the wait for all those who might want another quality GBB AK replica. Externally, you basically don't have a more accurate commercially available replica of the AK74M on the market than this, with its full steel internals and externals all done on a one-to-one basis, allowing for the use of genuine AK74 accessories. Now, performance is also excellent, with the rifle being accurate and hard-hitting, as well as being a joy to shoot, something that has plagued other AK replicas. Overall, we give this an outstanding 5 out of 5 stars. VFC has outdone themselves yet again with this replica, and it opens up a whole host of possible future models for all of you to enjoy. So let's hand it over to you guys. What are your thoughts on the VFC AK74? Let us know in the comments section below. And for all these cool products and many more, visit us at www.redwolfairsoft.com. This is Andrew, out.